Story 1. If a woman has no other topic to talk about than other people, especially their ex-partners or the women they lost them to, it is a red flag. Story 2. I have a friend who ignores me all the time and says it is because her phone does not have charge. I went to visit her on the weekend, and her boyfriend was messaging her. She said, "Ugh, I can't be bothered with him. I am going to tell him tomorrow that my phone was out of charge," which made me realize that she probably does the same thing with me. I just wish I had confronted her about it. Is it spiteful for me to do the same thing to her? Story 3. Playing hard to get or other little games. If she is interested too, she should be a mature person and pursue the mutual interest with equal effort. Story 4. The mentality of "I am never the problem. Everyone else has issues," just lets my brain know to move along. Story 5. Having a million different problems with someone but not being able to talk through a single one of them. After a certain point, you recognize that the solution they are seeking is to try to dismiss the entire person by highlighting the number of perceived flaws in the eyes of the audience they are performing for, rather than addressing or solving any actual problem. Story 6. When women make things very difficult for servers, this is a huge red flag, especially if the waitstaff is doing everything correctly and to the best of their abilities. Story 7. There is nothing wrong with talking about one's past life and past relationships from time to time. It is important to understand how your significant other got to where they are today and how that affected them as a person. That is not appropriate for a first date, nor does it need to be a frequent topic of conversation, especially when a couple is spending time with other friends. At a certain point, it becomes clear that the person who keeps bringing it up is not at peace with their past relationships and is not ready for a new one. Story 8. Clear lack of emotional regulation. Huge red flag in my opinion. For instance, 1. Seems to always externalize their own needs rather than self-soothe. It is okay to need someone else to co-regulate, but always. 2. When a woman gets angry and acts in a very reactive or volatile way towards people, then complains or plays victim when hard boundaries are set, or when they receive similar behavior in return. When you are treating people badly or being actively disrespectful, what kind of treatment are you expecting? Story 9. Attention seeking. Constantly looking around to see if others notice them. Speaking louder than the environment to draw attention. A strange fake, notice me energy. I cannot even put it into words, but I can feel it from 100 feet away. Really bad vibrations. Story 10. The whole being too good for a simple date. I never met the girl and suggested a coffee date. She felt I was not putting in enough effort because she is too good for that to be a first date. She wanted me to take her to a nice Italian restaurant. I would have taken her to a nice restaurant on a later date. The first date needs to be casual and easy to escape. Story 11. Low effort. When I feel like I am always the one reaching out, starting conversations, trying to keep things going, and making plans. I have chatted with women who insist they are interested but put in no effort. When I start to ease up and give them space, they rush back wondering why I am no longer interested. It would be nice to wake up to a good morning text or have someone be the one to say, "Let's do this." Even if they feel the conversation is starting to stall, they could try to save it instead of placing all of that responsibility solely on me. Story 12. Trying to make the guy jealous. Once I hit my early 30s, I could easily tell when a date or girlfriend was attempting to make me jealous. In my teens, it would work, but by 30, it just makes the woman look petty, malicious, and immature. Story 13. If you cannot handle me at my worst, you do not deserve me at my best. It is not only a negative implication, it is also a strangely confrontational thing to say before anyone has even said hello. Story 14. Complaining about everything, then changing the criteria once a situation changes to continue complaining. Story 15. Being condescending or acting entitled towards public workers like the waiters in restaurants, the taxi drivers, or the cashiers at a hotel. Story 16. Being overly worried about appearances, not just their appearance but how things look to other people, just screams high maintenance. I know we would never be able to relax and have fun without caring that we are making fools of ourselves. Story 17. This applies to any gender and describes someone who gets instantly defensive when you try to bring up something that is having a negative impact on you. Story 18. I am a woman, so I apologize for answering a question directed at men, but here is one thing I notice that many women do, and some men do as well, that is an instant red flag. Talking negatively about people behind their backs constantly, and in ways they would never say to those people's faces. You know the saying, if they do it with you, they will do it to you. The same applies here. Usually, when someone engages in this behavior regularly, it stems from jealousy, immaturity, unresolved issues, or a combination of these factors. Story 19. That arrogant and condescending air that says, I can do whatever I want and treat people badly because I am the prettiest. They often say that they want to meet someone kind, which I find hilarious. Story 20. The use of therapeutic language to disguise lack of emotional depth. Accurately and precisely discerning your emotions and thoughts is a valuable skill. Cleverly embellishing behaviors and feelings with social media influence psychology is less so and really just comes off as not actually doing personal work. Body shaming. Being obsessed with bringing other people down over how they look, especially when it involves things they cannot control. Seeing women do this to men is low. Seeing women do it to other women is even lower. Berating or making fun of a partner in front of others. It is unclear why this behavior is so common. It is not cute or funny and only makes it seem like you dislike each other behind closed doors. Story 21. Telling someone something in a private setting, only to find out later they shared it with all their friends. Story 22. I'm happily married, but one thing that makes me cringe and raises concerns, even from a friend's standpoint, is when a woman says she does not get along with other women or always gets along better with men. Story 23. I think for 90% of these questions and answers, you could use Control F and replace men and women with people. Story 24. Hiding your lack of self-esteem with feminine behavior is just as toxic as toxic masculinity. People need to think before they act. Is what you are inclined to do something you would stand behind later? Does it lead to a better life for you? A life philosophy needs to be practiced, and you need to learn to think for yourself. Story 25. Entitlement. I dated a girl who insisted her parents' and her grandparents' money was, in her words, money I am entitled to. It is my money. For what? Being born. I do not want a partner who thinks this way. I have been dumped many times, but this is someone I actually dumped myself. Story 26. Being desperate for attention on social media. I do not want to date anyone who is more obsessed with getting good selfies than experiencing life. Story 27. The whole brat and little subculture is annoying. Their profile says, I am a difficult person, so deal with it. I will swipe left. Story 28. Wearing insecurities on your sleeve. It seems like the things that are called a show of confidence are exactly the opposite. It is more of a show of how insecure you are. Just an observation as asked for. Story 29. This applies to both men and women. Not having friends of the same sex. Generally speaking, men are better at recognizing toxicity in other men, and women are better at recognizing toxicity in other women. If they cannot or will not maintain positive relationships with peers of the same sex, there is probably a reason. There are obviously exceptions, but the general rule still holds. If you meet a woman who claims to be one of the boys and says she likes hanging out with men because other women are too dramatic, chances are, she is the one causing drama. Story 30. A circle of friends consisting almost exclusively of heterosexual men. This is usually a sign that she is difficult to tolerate and that people only associate with her because they are attracted to her. Story 31. She gives you a choice between two things. It could be anything, such as where to eat or what to do that day. You choose one. Sometime later, maybe days or even months, you find out you made the wrong choice. Story 32. Running stop signs, not obeying basic traffic rules, texting while driving, and generally being unsafe on the road. For example, one day my children could be riding with you. Story 33. One day, many years ago, I spent a whole evening with a girl and paid for everything. We talked for hours. Or she did. When she wanted another date, I said sure, if you could tell me my name. There was no other date. Story 34. Not offering to pay for anything is a red flag. I always expect to pay for dates and rarely let a date pay for anything, but expecting that they will pay for nothing is concerning. One of my favorite memories of my wife and me while dating was when we wanted to go out on a date, but I did not have any money as it was between paydays. She smiled and said she would gladly take me out and pay. That was the best pizza I had ever had. That was 14 years ago, and to this day, she is still a kind and sweet person who is always willing to meet you where you are and go together through anything. Story 35. If you are mean to service workers of any kind, then you are a walking red flag. Waitstaff, hosts, gas station attendants, ushers, security personnel, food service workers, and custodians are all people who make the world run, along with teachers, daycare workers, and mechanics. It says a lot about you when you treat them poorly. Story 36. The phone. We do not care about the phone. If your life is your phone, it is a deal breaker. Put it away. Story 37. I'm pretty sure liking me in the first place is the red flag. Like, come on now, we both know you can do better. Story 38. Not allowed to look at other women, like their social media, or say anyone else other than them is attractive. Story 39. Having bad taste in men but thinking men are the problem. All the men I have dated are unpleasant does not mean men are bad. It means you cannot choose them well. Story 40. Criticizing their ex to portray themselves as a complete victim. Relationships often fail because of both people. It may not always be equal, but it is rarely just one person at fault. Trying to gain sympathy from someone who does not know the full truth is usually a warning sign for me. Story 41. I hang out with guys because it is less drama. Meanwhile, Billy and Bob have a conflict over who has priority on her when she ends her 17th boyfriend in 2 years. Story 42. When a girl contacts you, you go to her. A child walks in. She screams at them to give us peace. That's your child, ma'am. This man isn't that important. It gives me the feeling of discomfort real quick. Story 43. The lack of enthusiasm applies to both genders. But since I am a man, I can only speak from my experience. I can tell when a woman is not interested at all. Small things add up. Facial twitches, hand movements, and body language. Story 44. If we are talking with the intention to date and her responses are, oh, okay, yes, and so on, it tells me she is accustomed to not putting in effort and I should save my energy. Story 45. Making fun of other men, especially strangers in public, is common. I rarely see men directly make fun of or insult a girl they find unattractive to her face. Especially notable is the number of grown women who say you to men politely asking them out or trying to approach them. That behavior affects us deeply. I remember girls from early high school who treated me that way, and even now, after what I believe is a personal improvement, I find it difficult to trust any girl who says they find me attractive. Story 46. When I met my future husband, we spent 8 hours talking about everything. At one point, he said that he had lost one of his favorite CDs while moving. So, for his birthday, I gave him mine. He loved it. I did not go out and buy a new one. I gave him the one I owned. He did not know this at the time, but I was going to marry him, and I did. That CD came back to me. Story 47. 1. Being difficult with waitstaff in a restaurant, such as asking many questions, complaining about the food or drink, or being too picky. Mentioning anything related to drama among her friends or family. This often indicates she may be the problem. Expecting the man to bear all the effort and expense of the first date. Many women may not fully understand feminism. Talking about reality television or celebrities more than 5% of the time. Speaking with every sentence ending in a question. Frequently saying, "Oh my God," and using the word like every 5 words. Story 48. Any comments about knowing her value or negative attitudes towards sex. People are not objects with financial value, and sex is not a prize to be won. Story 49. Anyone who says that they hate drama is someone who drama follows wherever they go. Everyone hates drama. Saying it out loud feels like protesting too much. Story 50. Talking negatively about their friends immediately signals that you will disrespect me to your friends in the same way. Story 51. I am brutally honest. That is not the strength you think it is. It shows a lack of empathy, tact, diplomacy, and overall a tendency to create unnecessary drama and conflict. Story 52. Never giving credit where credit is due, and then denying that you did anything. That still upsets me about my ex to this day. Story 53. Practical in real-life information here. Their apartment smells like they have not scooped the litter box in several months. Addendum. Do not walk. Run. Then erase the memory completely. Story 54. Trying to elevate someone by being unkind to other people. For example, saying, "This person looks horrible in that shirt. They do not dress as nicely as you." Story 55. Their phone is never farther than arm's length away and follows them everywhere. Need to grab something forgotten in the car out in the driveway? The phone goes with. Getting up to get a drink in the next room? The phone goes with. Story 56. Complain and nag. If that behavior appears during the dating period, you can be sure it will only get worse. Story 57. Praises former President Donald Trump or cannot comprehend how something as simple as a vaccine works, at least on a basic level. Story 58. Entitlement. Some women and a few men grow up feeling different in some way, even negatively, such as needing accommodation at school. This causes them to become accustomed to different or special treatment than most, and they feel entitled to it. I have noticed it is more common in women, not as a genetic factor but as a social consequence. Story 59. I am only friends with men because I do not get along with other women. This is a way of saying that they cannot or do not know how to maintain healthy relationships and friendships. Story 60. One I have been seeing more and more is self-diagnosing psychiatric, emotional, and mental health disorders based on content from social media influencers and experts, and using these diagnoses to excuse toxic behaviors. Story 61. Always expecting you to initiate the conversation, never suggesting what to do, always waiting for you to pick activities, places to visit, or eat, never sending a good morning text. It is tiring always being the one to make the first move when they are supposed to be interested in you and claim to want to see you and spend time with you. Story 62. Identifying as having father issues. It has happened twice. The first time, the sex was great, but the constant games and emotional turmoil were definitely not worth it. The second time, I saw the glint in her eyes as she said it, and I knew what would come if I stuck around. I did not stick around. In a way, I guess it is using trauma as an excuse to treat people badly. I think it is really just a game to see how much the other person will tolerate. Just like a little kid, except we are adults and there are real-life consequences. I would be interested to speak platonically with women who identify as having, or used to have, father issues about what drives that sort of behavior because to me it seems very irrational. Story 63. Lack of reciprocal interest is significant. If I am having a conversation with someone, not necessarily women, and I am asking them how their life is going, their interests and so on, but they do not ask me any questions in return, it tells me a lot about that person. Story 64. Exhausting personality. The most recent version of this was not even dated. There was a woman behind me at my cousin's graduation who had to share her opinions on everything. She complained about the event starting 10 minutes late, said her brother should have worn a different shirt, did not like the restaurant they were going to afterward, and so on. This continued almost constantly until the students started receiving their diplomas. I was drained just listening as a bystander. Story 65. How loud one speaks. If a woman, no, if anyone can only communicate by yelling, that means they only care about themselves. Story 66. Saying things like, all their former partners were irrational, or other women do not like them because they are jealous, is a big red flag every time. Story 67. Always assuming the worst in every interaction with a man. A lighter, less offensive form of this is the ick. Also, tests just because they are bored. Story 68. Talking about ex-partners in general. They cannot put their phones away. They cannot have a conversation about current events or become argumentative when asked about their point of view. They show no interest in relating to me, my life, hobbies, or perspectives on certain subjects. They say things are stupid or childish, just to name a few. Story 69. When I see these on dating apps, I run a mile from experience. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. A Marilyn Monroe quote doesn't indicate there's much going on upstairs, and the idea that they are a princess and should be handled is a major red flag. Not into drama. These ones are always into drama. Not looking for a father to my kids. They are looking for exactly that. Talking about their exes on a first date. Funny now, but I went on a date with a beautiful woman who gave me her whole life story in about an hour and 15-minute monologue. It was so uncomfortable I felt like I was interviewing a celebrity. I would ask a question. She'd reply, and then there'd be silence until I asked another. When she finished, I asked if there was anything she would like to know about me, and she said no. I was so confused, so I wrapped things up. Later, I sent her a text asking if she was okay, and if there was something I did to annoy her. She said I talked too much. Story 70. She's not much of a friend anymore, just someone I work with now. Because it's a lot of detail, here is a quick summary. She was a really beautiful girl with her fiancé but left him, saying he's immature. A little later, she said he was stalking her. From there, wild stories followed about blackout drunken behavior and alleged sexual assault. I'm honestly not sure about this one. Shootings, fights, and apparently being intimate with many men, although she says she's not that kind of person. She even showed me a photo on Snapchat of an injury to prove a friend bit her. The list goes on. The funniest part to me is that she's jealous now, not just because of work or how much I've advanced compared to her, but because of a girl who is talking to me. I don't give her any attention because she has a new boyfriend and has completely cut me off. Other than work, that's it. There are many red flags. Don't mess with unstable people, don't even be friends with them. Story 71. I'm a woman, but I would say do not ask personal questions about your date. If he wants to get to know you, you should reciprocate. It is just polite conversation etiquette. Story 72. Talking a lot about money or what a man can do for you. Coming out swinging, talking about looking for a provider like I just met you. Story 73. I feel most people did not read the original question. Everything in this thread is a mix of opinions and problems that men display just as often, if not more. Our issues are so blatant it is hard to think they are slipping through unnoticed and not just part of their personality. Story 74. I am a heterosexual girl, but I imagine if I were a guy, it would be seeing that one quote in her profile that says, "If you cannot handle me at my worst, you do not deserve me at my best." To me, it suggests that there will be toxic behavior on my part, and you should put up with it no matter what. Story 75. Jealousy. Oh boy. I was seeing a woman before who demanded I cut off my two best female friends because she thought they were not the right friends for me. When I told her I was not planning on doing that, she got so angry it took me half an hour to get her to calm down. We were sitting in my car when it happened. I was actually scared she was going to hurt me. Instant turn off. Spoiler alert. Still very close friends with both women. Story 76. 3 major issues. 1. Only talking about themselves and never asking questions or showing interest in others. Treating people poorly, including service industry workers, co-workers, friends, and family. Unable or unwilling to apologize for anything. Story 77. For me, I do not like it when women let me make all the decisions with little to no input. I do not like being left to second-guess all my decisions, wondering if they like them or not. I want a partner, not a subordinate. Story 78. A woman who is constantly bored is going to be a real drain. You will have to entertain her, and you will probably not keep her amused for long. Story 79. Being very interested in astrology. If a girl asks me what time I was born within the first week of talking, I leave. The whole astrology, witchcraft, and tarot card thing is very strange. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.